Uh, hey folks, today, welcome to our API Hacks workshops. Today we have Ganesh with us. He will be enlightening us on the topic of API design and best practices.
Hey guys,
Ganesh is a UI engineer and a Microsoft Learn student ambassador. We are really happy to have him with us. And over to you, Ganesh.
hey, can you hear me? Yeah, am I mute or unmute? No, no, mute.
Yeah,
It
you can hear me.
automatically happens. Okay, sure. So I will share my screen and then we can begin our journey over here. So let me know if you can see my screen. I think it's visible. I can see it. So I'm just gonna start here. Hey everyone, I hope that you're having a great day, and I hope that you get to learn something from this session and use it in your professional lives. I don't know how many people are there in the chat, but if there are some, do let me know. Send a hi, or whatever you want to say. Have a good day, and let's start with this session. Okay, so the topic which I will be talking about today is API designs and best practices. So, uh, I'm not an expert while talking about APIs, but I know a little bit about it since I have worked for 1.5 years now and helped my colleagues design better APIs. And I think that I know a little bit about them. Let's begin about that. So, when you are designing an API, if your API is well made, your API would look something like that. You see such a beautifully made cloth. This will be, you will wear it, you will use it, and it will cause you no problems, and it will help you in bad times. But if you have made some wrong decisions while making your APIs, it will be a funny mess like this. You won't be able to use it anywhere, and it's like you can see how good it is just by looking at it. you know. Let's move forward from that. So in this talk, we will learn how to make an API which looks like this. You can use it. It's gonna help you in the winter season, and it's gonna look good on you when you wear it. So let's begin. From my side, you know, my name is Ganesh Tiwari. I'm a UI engineer, as my friend said. I work at Stava Private Limited. I like to design systems as well as APIs. You can find me on my socials over here. If you are looking at it, Instagram, Gatstratev, Twitter, IGT76, LinkedIn, GT76, and my website is here at cats.com. Here is what I look like, and you can see me here as well. So let's begin. As to design a good API, you should first know what is an API and why do you need it. So yeah. So what is an API? So going by the definition of an IBM, you know this company. I also have this link mentioned over here as a reference. An API is nothing but a programming interface which enables you to open up the functionality of your software for others to use. It may be others, or it may be your customers. You know, main aim here is the software which you have. You open it for others to access. I think I have got some message over here. Let me just check it real quick before moving. Okay, it's just a stream link. Okay. Okay. So That's just an API. A standard diagram of that API would look like this. You are an user, you are using a web app or a mobile app which is for the same product, and they both connect with the same API. So whether you are using a website or you are using an application, the data that they manipulate is the same, and the function which manipulates them is also the same. And this whole interface is known as your API interface. Let's make this one thing clear. And when you design any software systems, you need to make sure that that interface is very open and as easy as it can be to use in any sort of application, because you might have a mobile application that is written in Java or Kotlin or Flutter. Sorry, Flutter is a framework, or Dart or JavaScript or Python, or you have a web app which is written in JavaScript, TypeScript, you name it. You know, there are many different languages, and you want that API to be accessible to everyone. That's why you need to make it better. And a better diagram of this whole scenario will look like this. You have your whole backend thing, like a database management system. It may be an SQL, a NoSQL system, or it may be just flat file sources. You don't directly expose them to your customers or the persons who are going to use it. You put an API server in between, you define all the things which are open for customers to do in this API server, and then you open it to the customers using REST. This is not a correct one word, but you open it up for people to use it with REST or OData or a JSON API. So that is a better diagram. How how can I find some APIs to play with? So I am, I have worked with a few APIs, and uh, the ones that I would suggest you to look at are NASA Open APIs. So this gives you access to all of the data which NASA collects and makes it accessible to the public. You can use it to make your apps. There is a SpaceX API, which shows you the data of every rocket that they have launched. And there is a COVID-19 API which you can use to collect data about COVID-19 throughout the world. And there is a Reddit API, Reddit Open API, which you can use to obviously access Reddit's data. Uh, while you can use it anywhere you want, the main programs or software that people generally use to query APIs is, I personally prefer Nightingale. This is a Windows client to access APIs, and then there is Postman. This is like a cross-platform application. So whether you are on Linux or Windows, you can use it anywhere. So this is a little more uh, used. It is a lot more used than Nightingale, but I like the beauty of Nightingale. So there's it. How would you make one? So now you know what is an API, how do you use it, and how do you make one? So how do you make one? You can write everything from scratch, write a web servers that accepts requests and gives response, but that would not be an ideal way. An ideal way would be for you to use one of the frameworks which there are in the market, and there are many frameworks. Like for every language there are at least 10-15 frameworks. I'm just listing three of my personal favorites which you can use. First is .NET Core. Obviously, it is the most preferable from my side since it has So many things just waiting for you to put it in there, and once you put it in there, it starts working out of the box. And then you have Express.js. This is this, I might say, it is not as easy as .NET Core to do things, but it is a lot less lightweight. It has very less things directly attached to it, so you can add things and remove things as you may want it to be. There's also very less overhead for you to learn it. And then at the last, there is Fast API. Fast API is similar as Express.js and .NET Core, but it is for Python-based frameworks, and it is also a very good framework for designing APIs. Uh, let's move on to the next part. Like, when you are making a web API, don't make just a web API, because that is almost useless if you just make an API and leave it on the users to find about it and read it and use it in their application. When you make an API, it is necessary for you to document them. While there are a bunch of things with which you can write documentation, obviously you can manually create a Word document and put all the details in it, but the industry favorites are, you can use Swagger, you can use Redoc, or you can use Postman API documentation. That is by far the three things that I would recommend. And then uh, in the there is a unique data which I found out while researching about this presentation, is that when people make API documentations, the most things that users look at when reading a documentation is that they see examples. So when you make oh sorry, I just zoomed out of it. Yeah. When you make an API, make sure you include a lot of examples. You include all of the errors that might happen, and what do they mean. You need to include authentication. You can include it directly, and there are many ways to do it, but that is a little more complicated thing. Your error messages should mean something. Like, you can't just give a 404 and expect the person to understand what is happening over there. If you have not found the resource, you give 404. If there is a server error, you give 500. If there is, you give respective errors, so that when you read the error code, you know what has went wrong and how you can fix it. And then good in presentation. So now let's move on to some tricks. That is, like, it's not tips and tricks actually. It's like best practice. I forgot to rename it. And always when making an API, use a common serialized format. Don't use different types of data format for different parts of your API. Like, when you are designing something, make sure that every part of your data returns the same type of a data type. Every part of your API returns the same part of an API. So the most common way of structuring your data and transferring it over the internet is JSON. That is JavaScript Object Notations. It is a very simple format, and I have included an example for it over here. So if you see, this is structured in JSON, and make sure that you accept the data in JSON as well as you return the data in JSON. So you don't mix and match different types of object notations. Okay, and this is one thing. And then one, yeah, second thing. Yeah. So when you are making an API, So suppose if you are making an API, and let me just make it a little smaller and do a research over here. API, and let me put this browser so that I can show you something. You can see this Reddit API documentation. So if you see this whole thing, this whole documentation, you can see that they use nouns, like they use a particular resource name for a endpoint, like so a good, yeah, like comment. Yeah, this is not a good a thing that I should show. I think Reddit made a bad decision by making so. So let's show a good documentation. Let's show COVID-19 API. Maybe this will be in a better format. So yeah, let's see its documentation. Yeah, it doesn't show the data automatically, but you can see it doesn't list all the routes in a particular way. It just shows the title of it. But I will make sure you get the point. So I will show you the difference of what it is. So here, if you see, um, obviously this is just a read-only API, so it might not show a good. Let's show you an API which I use in my professional life, and that is like a good documentation. I feel like it is a good example of what it should be. So if you see, this is a CMS, content management system. So all of the APIs are automatically generated over here, and this CMS uses a very good format for maintaining that data. So here you can see in the right side, you have all the different routes like hub, community, event, home, user profile, agenda, post. So these are routes, but they are named upon, if you see for hub, when using get, we use the same route, content slash community slash hub. And when deleting, then again use the same route, content slash community slash hub, and just provide the ID for it. Okay. Uh, when we get, and then you look at this documentation, API documentation, Reddit, you see that they have used different, like API slash clear filter flares, API slash delete flares, API slash delete flares. So let's we once again go over this difference. So here, if you look at get content item, it's the same URL slash content slash hub slash ID. It's just using a get HTTP method. So that it is requesting a data, and when deleting a data, it is the same URL, but it is using a method called delete. So don't use an action item, like an action name, like Java community slash hub slash delete and then ID. Use the same route and just use different functions for it. Okay. In this function, you can see that for clearing a flare they use different function, for deleting a flare they use different function, for reading a flare they use different function. It just creates 50 different functions 50 different routes, and eventually it gets hard for you to name them uniquely, as well as it causes confusions in some places. So don't use that. I hope that you understood what I am saying. And you can do that over here. I have also included a code piece. If you can see it here, this code implements the same thing. So there is a route named articles. You when you do a get request to that, it will retrieve all the articles. Then there is a same route named articles. When you do a post request to that same route, it will create an article. Then there is the same route slash articles. Notice there is no verb over here, like slash articles slash create. It's slash articles, and directly you are passing the ID for it, and the whole body of the article is in your request, and then you create it. And then again, same for delete slash articles, and you don't have a verb over here like delete. You have slash articles and then the ID, and you do the deleting thing over here. So this is a very good tip. I have seen my fellow people use verbs, and it causes a lot of confusion later on. Don't use that. uh, After that, use logical nesting on points. Like you can see, once again I can show you the Reddit API as a bad example, and then my API as a good example. This is exactly not my API. It is a CMS which implements things, and then this is Reddit API which some person might have developed it themselves. But look at a difference, right? If you see uh, this thing, slash comment slash delete links slash everything, it's like, you know that a comment can't be without a post, right? So it makes sense that you have slash API slash post, and then you give the ID of the post, and then you ask for comments, right? This thing without any context doesn't make much sense. So use logical listings wherever possible. So one example is that, and then again vote. If you see, this is just slash API slash vote. It doesn't give much context. You can have slash API slash the post ID which you want to vote about. Oh, sorry, slash post, and then slash the post ID that you want to vote for, and then slash vote. And then you use different functions like post for creating a vote. You use delete for deleting your vote. You get the difference, right? You get the gist. So that is one thing. And then yeah, and also comments will be under post. The vote which you give will be for a post, or it will be for a comment. So using listing makes much more sense. Yeah, this is something which I talked to you about earlier as well. So whenever something bad happens on your API, so you send a request and you don't know, and something happened on the server side and it failed. So don't just return a 404 for all the errors. Use different types of codes for different types of errors that might happen. So when your client sends a bad request, use 400, so that the client, when a request receives your message, he or she knows that the request that was made was wrong. Send 401 when he or she is unauthorized. So if a person is not logged in and is trying to access some resource, send 401. Send 403 when he is not allowed to access a resource. Send 404 when you are not able to find that resource. 500 is like internal server error, so you wrote some bad code and you messed it up. So that is automatically returned by server, and you don't need to return it manually. When when this code is returned, it is most probably that the programmer has messed up and something has gone bad on the server. uh, Return 502 when you are not able to access the resource which is being accessed, which is being requested. So if I am a customer and I ask for the detail of order number 123, I try to go over to my database and ask my database for the same data, and for some reasons the database doesn't provide the data which I want. Then I send a 502. I What I mean by that is, you gave me a correct request. I received a correct request. I tried to access that request, but I failed. And sorry, but I received the wrong response from the upstream server. I hope that makes sense. And then you return 503 when something unexpected happened on your server side. Maybe you ran into an exception, something else. Okay. Oh, sorry guys. I For some reasons I pressed CTRL F4 and then just closed the browser window.
It's
Sorry
okay. It's
for.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to share your screen again?
Oh yes, I forgot that it has been
Yeah.
stopped. Okay, let me just share it. And yep, can you
Uh,
see it?
yeah. There we go.
Okay, sure. So yeah, I use this zoom thing, right? Yeah, I zoom in on a particular topic. So
Uh-huh.
that has a shortcut of CTRL 4, not F4, just 4.
It's okay. It's okay. It's
And
okay.
I clicked by mistakenly F4. So my fault.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
fine. It's fine.
when on a website, when you are accessing some resource, you see this kind of a message, right? When on a GitHub you try to access something that doesn't exist, it shows you a very beautiful message what went wrong. So that is what I mean by returning correct error codes when something bad happens. So that thing we have covered. And then after that, allow filtering, sorting, and pagination. So when you have data, you might have a lot of data. Suppose you have like 100,000 data, and someone does a get request on the root of the data. So you don't send all that data. That will be like gigabytes of data, and the user won't be able to download it. Neither you will be able to send it. So you have to implement pagination, like only send a bunch of data a particular time. So whenever someone asks for a data and they haven't provided you with a limit, like I want 5 or 10 or 15 data, you automatically limit it to certain types. In the APIs which I generally design, I limit it to 20 resources. So if someone asks for profiles, I return 20 profiles at a time. And if the user wants more, then they should send me another request with a page number as set to 2. Then I will return the data from 20 to 40. And When he or she requests for another data, they should send me a request for page number 3. Then I will return data from 60 to 80. You get my point. That is pagination. And then for sorting, for some websites, you have that, when you show or list an item, you have buttons on the top of the thing, uh, to sort it accordingly, like the cheapest first, or the costliest one first, or the name which has most letter first, or the ones which was created first should be first, the ones which was created latest should be first. So that type of thing should be in your API. And then there should be filtering, like you want data, sometimes you want all of it, sometimes you want just a unique one, so you provide ID for it. But sometimes you don't have a particular ID, but you don't want all of the data. You want, suppose you want users which have age of 18, so you have to have filtering embedded in it. So you can provide certain filters, and your API returns correct response. That is what I mean by filtering. If you want all the male users, so you provide a filter like gender of the user should be male, so your API knows what to send. This is this top tip. And then we are like almost to our end of this thing. So this is like all the things which I have personally learned, and this is, you might find it somewhere, you might not find it, but this is my personal thing. So when you are designing an API, make sure that you have a standard response that you send every time. So if you are requesting something, you send the same thing, and if something goes wrong and you are returning something, you send the same response. The structure should be same, and there should be different fields with, after reading which you can know whether it went wrong or right. So sometimes, suppose if you have an API which lists all the products, and you have like 35 products. So when you request first time, and if it is a API designed by me, then you will get the first 20 items as a response. And then you scroll and you don't find your particular item, and then you request for more items, and then the page 2 will load. So this time, since we have only 35 items, it will only show you, it will only return 15 items. And you see all the 15 items, you still don't find your thing, and you access the third page. I know this is a mistake, but what if you do, you know this is not an API fault. This is not, you know uh, I think this may be a bad request now that I am thinking about it, but it is not a bad request. It's just like you have tried to access the third page which doesn't exist. So you should, have a status of the request, like, you know obviously it will send an empty object, since we don't have the object from 40 to 60. So it will send you an empty object, but you won't know why it is sending you an empty object. So you can have a status field which shows you success or error, and you can also have a message field which gives you a message that, if something went wrong, what went wrong. So you can say that uh, the specified page number doesn't exist in the database. Okay. And a third field named as data, which is actually the data which you have asked your API for. So when writing in .NET, this is something that I would use: standard response class, It has the error code. So if something went wrong, what went wrong? You have the data field, whether the whether the request was a success or not, and then a message field, like if something went wrong or something is not correct, what happened. So one thing, and then another tip is that you can use OData. So just a few minutes ago, I talked about filtering, pagination, searching, and no, I didn't talk about searching, but filtering, pagination, and sorting. So if you add OData to your API, which is a very good library, or you can say specification. So let me just show you over here. What do I mean by OData? Uh, this was made by Microsoft. It is an open source thing, so all of the code that you want is available in open. It is implemented for, I think, various different languages, but I have only used it for .NET as of now. If you add this thing to your library, or sorry, your API, it automatically supports all of the things like filtering, searching, paginations, sorting, everything. So this is the thing you should look for. You should, if you can integrate it, you should integrate it. That is one major boom tip from my side. And I can show you the example over here in my API. Over here, see, like while querying contents, you can provide different parameters. Like you can search for a particular data. You can provide how many items do you want. You can provide how many items to skip. So both of these you can use for paginations. Like for you, if you want 10 items from the second page, so you will use top 10 and skip first 10. So if you know what I'm saying, you can use order by to sort it automatically. How do you want to sort it? If you have some filter that you want to apply, you can use this filter parameter. These two are, I don't know what that is, but I think they don't. I don't know anything else. So these are like the major important fields, and this is also not the complete OData. So the complete OData has many other things implemented in it. This is just a few options which OData includes. So if you are able to include this type of thing in your API, then you are good to go. You won't have to worry about anything else. Sorry, in the upcoming future. You have that, and that was, I guess, all of it for my session that I had to talk about. And if you are here, uh, you know, that was
Yeah.
all of the session. And if someone is listening over there, and if you have
Yes.
some questions, I
If anyone has any
this is the
questions,
time.
please put in the chat.
Yes, this is the time that you ask for it, and I answer it. And if you don't have any, I leave. So I will share my social page over here if someone wants to connect with me.
Yeah.
Still, yeah.
Uh, I'll put a question in the beginning. If you were taking part in the hackathon, what would be your
Yes.
preferential framework that you would go ahead to build an API? Your first choice, basically,
Yeah,
and
my
why?
first choice will be, yeah, I think I will go ahead with Express.js. This is just so simple to get started with, and you can build things very easily and very fast, and you can deploy it almost anywhere.
Hmm.
So I think that has a benefit. If you can use .NET, and it is a very good thing, but it adds the .NET framework requirement, and it might be available somewhere, it might not be. Express.js you can run
Yeah,
anywhere.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a good recommendation for everyone that'll be taking part. But currently, I can't see any questions. I think it's really crystal clear for everyone in the chat.
Yep, I
But
am happy to have that thing.
yeah, but thank you for an awesome session, Ganesh. And I hope hackers will write much better APIs this session. And yes, thank you. I
Yep.
think we can end
Have
here.
Yes. Bye, guys. Have a great day. Take care of
Sure.
yourself, and I
Thank you
am
so much.
taking a leave. Bye.
Yeah.